build that country where all Nigerians can be proud of, where everyone has a stake and everyone contributes. That is the country we yearn, we dream for all the time. When we do things, when we vote, even those running away, they are looking for that country, and we must find it. It is our job to find it. I was listening to somebody speak, and they said Canada was built by Canadians, and of course Latvia by Latvians, Switzerland by Swiss people. So Nigerians have to build Nigeria for us to be that dream nation that we want, giving satisfaction to everyone, man, woman, and child. Welcome again, and that is exactly what we shall be looking at today. In recent days, of course, since after the elections, the presidential elections, of course, don't forget, we'll be having elections this weekend as well on Saturday, precisely, the 18th. We sincerely hope that all things will go well. We in the FCT here, we may not be involved, but of course, our brothers, sisters across the country will be exercising their franchise and electing their preferred candidates. And so we're looking at those issues again of nationhood. Yesterday, I had a very prominent guest, Dr. Ejike Oji, joining me from Ovum in Abia State to look at the issues of why people are disillusioned, and still we'll be looking at that today. I have the pleasure of having my friend join me, and a friend of the house as well, joining me this afternoon to look at those issues as to why are the young people so disillusioned? Why do we have, since after the elections, several postulations have come up. So many things are being said. Stolen election, rigged election, and all things like that. Before we went on this election, there were certain agencies, maybe private, I don't know if they were governmental, that did polls as to projecting it. So many, I remember so many of them saying Obi was going to win. I know a few that says Tinubu was going to win. Some of that said Atiku would win. And then, of course, just before the election, I saw the one that said Kwankwaso was going to win. You know. And in other countries, we usually have what they call exit polls. Anyway, we'll be getting into that. But first, I have my friend, a journalist as well, and a social commentator, a very patriotic Nigerian in the person of Jide Ojo, joining me this afternoon to look at these issues of concerning our feelings towards our country. Jide, you're welcome to our studios once again.
Thank you, Ernest. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
All right. Now, Jide, I will just take it up from that place where I stopped just now, where there were so many, and I'm very happy that you were involved. You've monitored elections across the world, and you monitored this one. And I'm sure you were one of those people, you must have been involved in polling and all of that. And there was the polls. In countries we know where they do polls before elections, they are usually exit polls to find out exactly who voted for who, which age bracket, women, children, new voters and all of that. How come we've not heard anything in respect of that? And there is perception out there in the street, stolen. A lot of young people, when I go on Twitter, people are just talking about this stolen election, rigged election, and all of that. And it's really bothering me. I don't know why the agencies that did polls before the elections, why we don't engage in exit polls that people conduct after people vote. Who did you vote for? And they get all those statistics, and then they can use it for exit polls to tell us exactly who voted who.
Thank you, Ernest. The issue of polling is still a developing act or developing science, because actually opinion polling is a science,
okay,
and it's just getting rooted in Nigeria. And I think it depends on what medium you choose to use. You are going to get different outcomes. When you use telephone samples, or you sample people via telephone, it's going to most likely give you a different outcomes compared to if you are to use face-to-face.
Okay.
Because psychologically, people, when I'm talking to somebody I don't know, there is that tendency for me to just give a very casual and on non-committal answer. So I would just say, okay, what did you want to learn? Okay,
you just give it just to let go.
And again, to be fair to the polling agency, It's just that we get swayed by the spin on the media spin on the outcome of the polling. I remember the one that says Obi was going to win. I engaged in an analysis of one of such, and it happened that almost half of the population were undecided at that time.
Okay.
So if you have about 40% or 45% undecided, and then a poll shows Obi is leading with 28%, Tinubu 24%, Kwakwanso 20%, Atiku 10%. Don't also forget, polling is about the time. What time are you doing this polling? Okay. Things do change, and just like human beings change, my views of certain things were bound to change. So, one, I saw in one of those posts, which I was involved to do some drill down and deep dive, that there were a very huge chunk of undecided voter as at that time, and that was like January. So then we now have the dilemma of the medium of choice. Are you using telephone, or you are using face-to-face, or you are doing even WhatsApp, social media, or
text message,
and
all of that.
Newspapers also do polling.
Okay.
They will say, who are you likely going to vote for? The dailies, the national dailies does it to gauge people's opinion on certain issues, like the currency swap. So if you pick a national newspaper, some of them will say, okay, tell us what's your take on this. That's also polling. Then you need to also understand that opinion polling is an emotive issue.
Okay.
There are people who will tell you the wrong answer because they don't know to what ends and for what purposes you want to use that information. So people will tell you what you want to hear, but not the truth. And like I said, it also depends on the dynamics that plays out eventually leading to the polling day. Let me give you an instance. Before December, or by December 2022, I'm sure if you poll people in Abuja, many of them does not or will not have had the kind of pathological hatred they have for APC as at December. But by January, middle of January, down to the election day, the pent-up anger, the cash crunch,
the fuel scarcity.
In fact, it's just that, it's just because the cash crunch, the fuel scarcity were two factors that was prominent in the determination of how people vote in Abuja. So when APC did not have 25%, I knew it's as a result of the wrong-headed economic policies of Buhari administration. So, the same thing affected Tinubu's chances in Lagos, because these are urban centers where people, they are cosmopolitan people, urban youth. The demography is that of elite, and they just feel the inch that what kind of other nonsense is this? I have my money in the bank, you are giving me withdrawal limit. Even that withdrawal limit, I cannot withdraw it. Today, the day after the central bank said CBN, we can use old and new, people are not even seeing whether the old or the new. And the situation is here to abate. And you have election.
No, I got information that at least my own bank, they were giving out money this morning. I don't know. That's one of my friends who works there.
Lucky you. I wish I belonged to your bank.
I didn't go, because when I got there, I wanted to do something else. There was so much crowd, I had to run away.
Do you know my experience this afternoon? Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I went for lunch and I have no cash. So I decided to use transfer.
Okay.
I've already taken the food, and then the transfer. the bank app refused to open. I was totally embarrassed.
You will wash plates.
I had to call a friend to say, please, you have to bail me out. This is the account you should transfer to. Luckily, he's using different accounts, and that was how he helped me to pay and send me the slip of the payment to go and show them
to them
so that I will have to wash plates and clean the clean the restaurant.
Nigeria, look, I don't want to interrupt you, but I didn't want us to regurgitate the polls, but it was okay that you gave us a background to that. My question actually is, if an organization can do polls before an event, it is important they do the exit poll as well, because it will help a lot. If we had done an exit poll to poll the people how they voted, and it would have calmed a lot of nerves, because so many of the young people are basing their reaction on one demographic that INEC gave. I heard Dr. AGK Oji yesterday, and he said 72% of Nigerian population are youths. And right now in our country,
that's wrong.
That's wrong. And that there is this between, and then those who registered. Let's talk about the elections now. What INEC gave us, that people between age 18 and 34 were a large chunk of those who registered newly. And then about 60% of the voting population of about 93 million were young persons. And then we went to the election and we got the result that people did not even mobilize. Why did these agencies not do an exit poll? Let's get so that one is more accurate. So that the young people will now know that they were not the only ones who voted, that other people voted as well. Then the nerves will come down rather than saying the election was rigged. No, that's what I'm trying to drive at.
It's the narrative. The rigged election is a narration of the elites who lost out. Because, you see, election is like a judge. A judge is an arbiter in a conflict. For every judgment a judge gives, it makes a new friend, it makes a new enemy. Because the person who loses will say, oh, they bribed the judge to give him a wrong verdict. And the person who wins will say, democracy in action. The same thing with election. Even for those who could not win councillorship, they are the ones that are shouting highest that they were rigged out of the election. Meanwhile, these are people that didn't campaign, who are unknown quantity and will never really have won anyway. But I'm not saying the election was perfect, and we have to admit that there are flaws with that election. INEC itself, in a March 4 review, March 4 was the review of Saturday after the announcement of result. They had a commission meeting and they highlighted a number of things with the challenges that they faced, which actually militated against a smooth conduct of that election. One of them is the technological glitches. There is the issue of logistics. There is the issue of party agents. There is the issue of even their own staff who refuse to do the needful. I mean, I recall a portion of that statement that was issued after that March 4 meeting, where the INEC chairman said, look, it's inexcusable that there are no provisions for power generators, in places where people are supposed to have light at collation centers and where elections went far into the night. And you saw that in many places where elections went far into the night, it's people in the neighborhood that were actually bringing their generators to help INEC lighting up the environment. We should not be. Even the registration area centers, INEC had budgetary provision to lighten up the place, make it habitable for their poll officials to sleep over, so that they can take off from that place to polling units early in the day. But that didn't happen. INEC chairman also highlighted the fact that there was centralization of the distribution of materials from local government. Meanwhile, he said in that press statement that the standard operating procedure is for INEC to distribute materials from the registration area center to the polling units, not from local government offices. Okay. Where he attributed that as part of the reason why the election started late in many places. So if INEC itself has admitted that there were challenges with that election, I cannot be seated there and say, oh, that election was perfect. Okay. But the allegation of election being rigged in favor or against, I think we should not deodorize it so much. It may have happened, but was it widespread enough to discredit the election? I don't think so. We have election in 176,606 polling units. So assuming without considering that there were malpractices in about 20,000, what is the percentage if you deduct 20,000 from 176,606 polling units, is that widespread enough? Because when the judges, when you go plead your case in court, what their lordship will be looking at, is, was there substantial compliance with the electoral law, standard operating procedure? Okay. Was there substantial compliance or there wasn't? So, but everybody who has weighing in on this are entitled to their opinion.
That is exactly it. Why is it that there is this apathy by the Nigerian youth to a large extent? Most of them, they are more willing and ready to believe in negative narrative about our system. There is something there. I'm just trying to find out. Do you have any reason why that is happening? Why the average young Nigerian is disillusioned about our country, and so there is more likely to buy into negative narratives? When you check Twitter, check some of these social media platforms, the first thing you hear, once you put one negative narrative there, they will be hailing you. Once you say something good about the government or about the system, you see people, talking you down.
But do you know that the percentage of Nigerian youth on social media is actually not up to average? Because many Nigerians, do not have smartphones. But they don't have
those
phones.
Who do have.
Those who do have.
There's a lot of power to that.
I'm not saying there isn't, because again, it's a medium of mass communication. I send one tweet from Jide Ojo can be retweeted by 10 million people. You get, and of course we have very social media influencers. So one tweet from them, one post on Instagram. Look at somebody like Davido, Wizkid, Burna Boy, other social media celebrities, Mr. Macaroni and the rest. They have tens of millions of followers. So one post from there will gain traction, and people will likely believe it, even if it's not grounded in reality or in fact. So people tend to want to hate anybody that has contrary opinion to their popular belief. I challenged INEC ahead of the election. I said, look, the commission needs to come out openly as to determining or educating the public on how a winner emerges in an election. So I don't know whether they did much of that, but Young Africa assisted to do election 101. Samson Itodo, 5 minutes every day on Channels TV, educating the public, taking different aspects of the electoral law, the regulations, and educating the public. Now, for the youth, many of them have this fixation that whatever their influencers tell them is the gospel truth. And the influencers themselves are not value free. Because if you know, now many of these social media influencers are paid agents. Some of them, not all. They are paid and they have political affiliations. I recall there was a time Mrs. Joke Seva just wore APC clothes in Lagos. They nearly tore and shred that to pieces, as if she doesn't have a right to hold political opinion. When Jide Kosoko, Olaiya Igwe, and the rest of them decided to go support Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, many of these youths took to Twitter, took to Instagram, and said they are hungry men. That is because they are spent forces, they don't have fortune, they are fortune seekers and all of that. So these elders have to take it in their stride because they are their children. So the point is, youths are very impressionable, and because they have their role models are people who are influencers, and negative news is also what sells. Okay, you get negative news sells. So when you tweet something negative, it will be retweeted 100 times over. But when you say something that is against the grain of public opinion, then you are seen as a sellout. There are occasions where people have asked me, how much were you paid to hold that unpopular view? The fact that I hold unpopular view does not mean that I was paid to come on here to say it. Okay. I may have a more informed position, and who says that only one person has the truth to any event? Okay. You get, today, I said, look at the statistics I've given you. Election is like an account of elephant by 6 blind men.
Yeah, you say you used that analogy the last time.
You know,
you were
an
here.
account of 6
correct.
blind men.
Yeah.
Account of elephant by 6 blind men. So it depends on which area you touch.
You're touching.
If you vote in a place where election was disrupted, balloting material were burnt, you are going to say, in fact, the next tweet will be, this election was stolen because of the incident that happened in your polling
after
unit.
probably election did not hold in my unit. So
yes, because election did not hold in your unit, you take it that it didn't hold in the ward, it didn't hold in the local government, it didn't hold in the state. So your experience, individual experience, shape how they conclude or what conclusion they have about any event. And that is why you need to concede to the youth that their own truth is in what they read on social media.
But Judy, that is the big challenge we have. Is it not possible that the system, we need to get a knowledgeable youth who is into research to find out things, to understand things? Because what bothers me too, one thing that bothers me is this. I agree with the youth. They want to change the system.
Yeah.
And I've not seen them, they're not backing their own self. They're still relying on the old order to say this is the person. And I look around me and say, look, these youths, I love what you're doing, but why don't you back yourself? Why do we not have these youths stepping forward at the last election? I know most of the parties were talking about 100 million, 40 million, which the youth cannot raise. So possibly that's the reason for that. But what do you think? Is it possible for us to win this youth of this thing, that for you to get the true information, there's need for more research? It's not just about what you hear on social media or emotional talk that is the truth. That there are facts and figures that lead to conclusions. Is it possible that we can bring our youth to understand that?
Yeah, we can, but it's an Herculean task because, like I said, youths are very impressionable, and I don't want to use the word gullible. They believe whatever their role model tells them. So that's why, the power of mobilization. We saw that during the NSAS. Many people took part in the NSAS without even understanding what the whole NSAS is all about. Ask many of them who participated in the NSAS, what is SARS?
Yeah, but
that you want to end.
Yeah, but that plays into the fact that they are angry with the system.
They are just angry
yes,
with the
and
system.
anything that mobilizes them to show that anger, they buy into it with other
and you can also see that during this current protest on currency redesign, where there were protests in Lagos, in Ogun State, and
banks were burned.
Banks were burned.
Bankers were beaten.
Now you ask yourself, what's the relationship between the banks that were burned and the fact that this is a government policy? Banks are not owned by government. Those money deposit banks were owned by individuals and shareholders. Okay. And the fathers of those youths who burnt down those banks could be a shareholder in those banks. They themselves could be shareholders in those banks. Now, have they increased the value of the share by burning it down? But because youths are very impressionable, and sometimes it's very easy. I was part of those who carried out protests against military junta on campus when I was a student of University of Lagos. And I recall Omoyele Shushowore was at a point student president Malcolm X, Malcolm Fabi, Shegun Mayegun. Those are the student president of University of Lagos. Dele Ashiru is now associate prof in the Department of Political Science, was my classmate. And these are the people.
So from activism, he became an intellectual. That's very interesting.
So okay. I joined all those protests against the protests for the revalidation of June 12. In 1992, 1993, I joined that. I joined the protests against lack of electricity and water on campus. I marched with them to VC's office, to VC's apartment, to demand for better social amenities on campus. But you see, there is a limit to activism. There is a limit. You could see activism has its own intrinsic value, and it's not useless. And that's why you see many labor unions, they are activists. You get, we are in their building. But many those who were deeply involved in activism, many of them end up in labor unions, working for labor unions, and from there moving into work to contest elections, and then becoming honorables or senators or governors, as the case of Adams Oshiomhole. And those who didn't go into labor unions, they move into civil society, either establishing or working for one. People like Honorable, what's his name now, from Edo State? I've forgotten his name. Even Patterson, this other man from Undo.
Which of you are talking about? Someone from Edo State? Let me see if it's all.
What was
his labor union president?
No. I think it was in CDHR or CLO. I've forgotten his name.
Okay.
So some of them, ended up contesting and winning the elections. Honorable Choyogocha in Imo. I've mentioned Patterson. I've mentioned there are SLA and the rest of them. So some of them moved from labor union to contesting for elective offices at the state or at the national level. But what I'm saying is that activism alone will not win you election. Grandstanding alone will not win you election. And you see, it's part of what I think, managing expectations.
Okay.
Whatever disenchantment Nigerian youths had about the last election was caused by INEC. INEC promised and overpromised, but under-delivered.
Okay.
But I will say, on what basis will an election be nullified? You cannot nullify election on the basis that the election started late.
But Jide, let's just leave those ones. They will talk about that. Let's hope that those who are responsible for that will be able to analyze all of that. And so we have a president-elect on the ground now officially. Now, one of the things I believe, because the other day I had to open the lines and let the youth, let them get involved, tell us exactly what would you want, what are these things that make you angry with Nigeria. And you have a President Buhari, for instance, having ministers in their 70s. We have an ambassador who is 82 as at the time he was appointed. And
the one that died in US.
Good, and Nigerian youths look around, they don't see themselves represented. These are the things that get them really angry. So what are these things we need to challenge the president-elect to do so that we have young women, young men, people in their 30s, early in their 40s, getting there, working vibrantly to ensure that, look, this is a big bulge in our population who are cut off, and they feel very bad at even me, I feel sometimes when I see the appointees that the president had, people who were so old, in their 70s. It's scarce, you see people in their 50s even, which even shouldn't be. Young people want to see 30-something, 40-something-year-old Nigerians holding senior government office and learning from there as we go forward, because they own the future. Do you think that's it too much to expect, or is it possible for the president-elect to implement such things so that the youth can see themselves replicated or represented?
I think we should not be defeatist in our approach.
Okay.
This last election has generated its own upset, and some youths have cashed in on that to win election. The obedient movement, the Kwakwasiya movement, they have produced, on dark horses who were able to win political offices, even in spite of not having war chest, financial war chest. And I believe there are going to be more upsets come Saturday, because this is state election. Remember the system was as adjusted, and thanks to people like Samson Itodo, Cynthia Mbamalu, and the rest of Yaga African team who coordinated the Nigerian youth movement in 2018 to ensure that there is a passage of the not too young to run bill, which eventually culminated in the lowering of the qualification age for House of Representatives and State House of Assembly, and then of course the councillorship, which is now 25 years old. So if you are 25 years old, you can run for House of Reps, you can run for State House of Assembly, you can run for councillorship. I think the local government chairmanship is still 30. Senate is 35 years old. Presidency, to run for the presidency of Nigeria, the age was reduced from 40 to 35. Now, it's one thing to reduce the age, not too young to run, but look at how capital intensive what the kind of capital you need to run election in Nigeria. So I believe that youth, in 2019, that not too young to run actually produced some positive offset, in which case about 5 states, Kwara, Oyo, Plateau, and about 2 others, we had very youthful Speaker of State House of Assembly. People who are under 30 who were elected in
but you also must to understand that in terms of legislations and all of that, you need so many people to come together to take decisions. The youths feel like, for instance, you have a 25-year-old Minister of Finance. They see that one is seen clearly. This person takes executive decisions and puts the youths in. It doesn't need too many people to take. That's what they want to see. Such top ministries, you put in young persons there. Look, these are the things the youth probably want to see that, okay, this president is ready to run with us rather than
let me also, because we need to start from electives.
Okay.
You know, when Bukola Saraki, when Oji Uso Kalu, when I think Donald Duke, when they were governors, they were youths. They were under 40. As at the time they were elected, those who were elected in 1999, those who were elected in 2003, these are youths who are, if you are under 40.
But you must remember that at that time, that was a tentative step. Nigerians did not trust that process. They were just, okay, you remember that the late jurist, former Minister of Justice and the Minister of Power said, sit down, look, at the beginning of it, let's just watch and see.
But you
that's
see
Bola Ige, yes.
But you know, that's why we always encourage the youth. Who is afraid of throwing a dice will never throw 6. Okay. You must be ready to take risk. But you see, for me, I believe it's an agenda we need to set for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu about, what agenda he has for Nigerian youths. I know he has a policy document. That's another level of conversation as to what will be the percentage of his cabinet that will be made up of youth. There is a national youth policy, just like there is national gender policy, just like there is a policy framework for persons with disability and National Disability Act.
Okay.
These have to be taken cognizance of in forming the cabinet of Mr. President-elect. Anytime he wants to do that, he needs to reflect diversity in his cabinet, which is what Joe Biden did when Joe Biden was forming his cabinet in January of 2021 rather, where he brought in people of color, women, persons with disability and all of that. So it's one of the most diverse cabinets in the history of America, the Joe Biden cabinet. So we can also set that agenda for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to say, look, the demographic that voted you to power is a significant youth population who are involved. It's not the middle age, it's not the old people.
Women as well.
Yeah, women, persons with disability, and the youth.
Okay, all right. So you're hearing the voice of Jide Ojo joining me this afternoon to look at some of the issues in our country. For now, we should be setting agenda for the president-elect. We don't want to be taken by surprise. What we Nigerians always do is we wait for the leader to do what he wants to do. No, it is our job. It is our country. We were the ones who voted. We should be telling him what we want and let him do it, not to do what he wants. He doesn't own the country more than you or more than me. So but at this time now, you can join us if you feel like. I've been receiving a lot of phone calls since, but I've not opened the line. So the lines are open now. You can call 0903-222-9797. 0903-222-9797. There's an alternate number, 0818-2222-205. If you call that line, you'll be a part of this show. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah.
My name is Jerry.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay, Jerry, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Right. My take is that nobody should tell us that youth are into social media. In this election, youth come out 90% and vote for what they want to vote. So nobody should tell us that youth is into social media, that influencers are influencing youth.
Jerry, look, let's go developmental. These are the things we are talking about. This current president-elect we have is going to form a cabinet. Let's not be getting angry. Let's calm our head. Let's tell him what to do. Can you tell us some of the ideas you want to have in terms of involving the youth in his government?
The idea is, the first thing, the person should make electoral body to be independent and right and hold accountable if they goes wrong. And I'm telling you, if there is any leader that electoral body do anyhow wuru and tell you that person will not get it right.
Okay.
Any league that comes with Ojoro and tell you he can never get it right, and that's what is giving us problem in this country. Okay. When our electoral get it right, and tell you we get a right leader, no matter how we preach this. Honestly, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Jerry, calling us there. I think Jerry usually calls from Nasarawa. So thanks for joining us. Okay, you can still dial. The telephone lines are open now, 0818-2222-205 and 0903-2229-797. You dial any of those numbers and you'll be joining us here. Jerry seems to be more concerned about having an electoral umpire that is truly independent, as the name INEC signifies. You think it's possible for that?
Well, I think to a very large extent, INEC is currently, as it's constituted, independent, which is why I took exception to the call by former President Olusegun Obasanjo for President Muhammadu Buhari to intervene and order some re-election in places where there are issues.
Okay, let me just interrupt you.
I think that will undermine the integrity and the
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon, Peter Ojo.
All right, who are we speaking with?
My name is Gerald. I'm calling
Okay, I thought you wanted to say another Jerry. Okay, Gerald. Okay.
No, it's
you say you're calling from what part of town, please?
Guarimpa.
Okay, from Guarimpa. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to celebrate Jide Ojo.
Okay.
Jide Ojo, please, go and tie your belt very well, but continue doing what you are doing. Thank you for educating Nigerians, always being objective. However, I counsel you to tie your belt because, please, let me declare, we have a new malady in our nation. That malady is the social media malady. Anybody who thinks, and I say this with love and respect to our youth, I have many of them in my family and as friends as well. But the new malady is that of social media. I'm sorry, but I'm going to make an unpopular statement. We are producing a generation of youth that are driven by fanfare, by, what do I call it now? The populist spirit, majority spirit. Even if the majority is wrong, insofar it is on social media, taste. And we are going along that way. Everybody goes along that way. If you are speaking the gospel truth, if you are hitting them on the face with facts and figures, they don't want to hear. They insult you to a high heaven and they stick with their position. In fact, they want to, blackmail or threaten you into going in their direction, no matter how false it is.
Okay.
I end this by simply saying the election that just held, just like Jide mentioned,
okay,
give me the fact. In Abuja here, obedience won fair and square.
Okay.
In the southeast, I can't say fair and square, but they won by 97% and above. So I beg,
all right,
intellectually, factually, where did you win that you were rigged?
Okay.
Factually. If you have that part,
Gerard,
go to court and prove it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gerard, thank you so much for joining us. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Yeah, who's on the line, please?
It's Makoro. I'm calling from Panda Development Area, Karuka Government, State, Nigeria.
Okay, please go ahead with your comments.
I appreciate your job in this afternoon. First and foremost, I appreciate all your people there. My regard your people there.
Okay.
Secondly, quickly, I want to say, because I'm very, very happy to abort politicians. The way I'm talking to you, I'm a politician. But I want, they think they pay me for this nation now. I don't know where we're headed. Because the way we like politics, to our politics now, they go down. Why am I saying like that? Imagine this passing election. I don't know. They go do all like that. Why am I saying? INEC, they told us that from polling unit, if you cast your vote straight to INEC office.
Okay.
But imagine, it is pay me for my mind. All the way are they listening, are they watching for television on that day? There is any polling unit in charge of vote in direct.
Okay. My kind of, so it means you are very, very disappointed with INEC performance at the election.
Yes.
Okay. We will take that.
I never finished.
Yeah, you know we have a short time here on radio, and we can't.
If INEC are listening us, may they do good because of this coming election.
Okay.
From polling units, may they try direct to INEC office direct.
It's all right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon. Are you still there? Okay. We got you coming back. Oh, all right. There's so many calls coming and going off. Gidi, I don't know. Maybe let's see if we just take one more of them, and then we will give an opportunity to. But I was listening to what Gerald was saying. But before that, let's take this call. Your radio said. Okay. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Nice show. My name is Kem.
Okay, your name is Kem. Look, I'm very excited to get a lady talking into our program. Let's get the woman perspective.
Thank you. I was listening to you, and I was listening to you talking about the youth, getting positions in government and all of that.
That is correct.
President-elect, yes. However, I think it's important when we call for youth to get positions in government, we should also call for them to be prepared for these positions.
Okay.
Government positions are not the positions where you want people to start learning on the job.
Right.
And that means that youth and young people need to start putting themselves to good use. Some people will say, oh, I don't have opportunities, but there are opportunities to volunteer. Even if you cannot give money, even if you do not have the contact, you can volunteer. And by the time in America, for example, you have people applying to different organizations per time. And at some point, because you're volunteering, there will be someone willing to give you an opportunity.
Okay, and you will learn experience too from there.
Exactly. And nobody hands over positions to anybody simply because they are youth. That makes it, a waste of time, a waste of energy for everyone.
Okay.
Right? Young people have to get off their behinds too, put themselves to good use with whatever skills they have and they have acquired. And that way, in the end, when people are calling names, their names will come up. Oh, this person, oh, that person. So I think that when we want to call for young people to get positions, we should also call on young people,
to be prepared. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Nice show.
Kem, we really appreciate you joining us. Please keep listening to Citizen FM 93.7.
Not a problem.
Have a wonderful day. Yeah, bye-bye. Now, Gidi, yes. Going back to what Gerald said, this rush. I remember 3 elections I've held in Nigeria. We were very happy when Soludo won. We were very happy when Adeleke won. They said Davido's uncle.
Yes.
And then, of course, Obaseki won, and there was this euphoria.
Yes.
And I have checked. I've not heard any special thing going on in those states for now, despite this mad rush from social media, young people saying we don't want to Shomole and his candidate we are voting for. Obaseki was chased out of the market 3 days ago. I have the video in my phone. By the same people who were rushing, we must vote Obaseki. Yes. What do you think of that? How do you react to things like that? That there is this rush and then the person comes in and then something else.
Disappointed. That's why the mob mentality doesn't work. When people just use the rave, a movement to win election without getting prepared for what it takes. Obaseki won a protest vote. It was a protest against Oshomole because Pastor Iyamu wasn't a bad candidate. but was being backed by a wrong person at that time. And of course, people felt it's liberation of Edo because Oshiomhole defeated Anini, so they want to also show Oshiomhole you cannot be a godfather in this state. But the jury is out there as to the performance of Obaseki.
I'm telling you the negative things I'm hearing from Edo State. I mean, I feel disappointed. After all this rush, the whole people were celebrating.
You know, he's not begging the Edo people.
He's not scared of obedient movement, I guess.
He's not begging. So you know that, and that's it. Even look at Arab Spring that took place in.
I don't know. We are actually out of time. Okay. Good afternoon. Hello.
Thank you, Gerald. Quickly, just a second.
Yes.
I heard my teacher Jide say that I don't know whether he thought it through that the youth, protest vote against what's his name?
Oshiomhole. Yes.
Because he was Izeyam was backed by a wrong person or Oshiomhole. Now the question is this. How intelligent was that move by our youth?
That is exactly what we are saying now.
No, that's what Ernest is saying.
Yeah, that's the point we are making.
How sensible was that?
The protest was actually against APC overall.
Yeah, and of course, it hasn't really brought a good result.
Look at the quality in an Ize-Iyamu.
Yeah,
so that comes down to the issue of how intelligent is our youth that we are going to that position.
Gerald, thank you. Gerald, thank you. Yeah, we'll be interrogating all these things as we go ahead. Jide, I don't know, your final saying on all of these, bringing youth, women, the preparation of youths, like Kem just told us. So
I respect the view of Kem most. Not because she's a lady, but she hit the nail on the head. When we say affirmative action for women, for youth, for persons with disabilities, it's among the youth we have junkies who are drug addicts.
There are also elders who are junkies too.
Will you say you pick a junkie that that is a popular a social media influencer? No, you will be making a mistake. Exactly. So what I'm saying is that we need to shine our eyes.
Okay.
We are pushing for women participation of persons with disability and the youth. But these are youth, women, and PWDs who are fully prepared, highly qualified, experienced. Did you know that at 35, somebody could have had about 15 years work experience? It's possible.
Absolutely.
Because these days that people are finishing secondary university education at 2021. And if you have volunteered and then you get a job immediately after graduation, you could have about 10-15 years work experience before you are 40. Yeah. So we are talking of people with highly skilled youth, women, persons with disability who will not disappoint their demography and constituency when they find themselves into government.
All right, Judy, I want to thank you so much. All right, youths, you're hearing that. Please be sure that you prepare yourself and be ready when the opportunity comes to grab it with two hands. Judy, I want to thank you so much for having up time to be with us here. And for all those of you who called and those who listened, who wanted to call, you couldn't get through, we appreciate you. But final information here, young persons, please, not all those information you hear on social media is true. Always try to verify. There are processes you could verify information. Don't just buy into any narrative because it suits you at that time. It could be damaging in the future. Let's think of our country first in everything we do and in every decision we make. I want to thank Fred Nice, my producer. My name is Ernest. I'll be seeing you tomorrow at the same time, and I hope you'll be there for Citizen FM. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.